I was going to get back to your cats and some questions of vulnerability,
Right.
but before I do that, since you were on the topic of um, life in America and corporate ownership, I wanted to get a little bit on sort of some Sanders positions and how the others are failing, and also Obama, who read an article about.
The
He's
best, yeah, the
very
best
angry about.
position, the best thing that Sanders has proposed is mandatory, making corporations have 20% union people, uh, a stock plan, and have at least 45% of workers on the corporate boards. This is something that, unlike universal basic income, which in its best form could be good but isn't going to pass, and Andrew Yang's has too many flaws. But if you get people involved in corporations, they will. The more people you have involved, the less chance of having greed come to the top. You can mute them because you have more interest in that, and this won't cost a cent if they could pass a law like this, and it would free up literally hundreds of billions of dollars a year in consumer spending that could go to green things and other things that lift people up out of poverty. And the thing that gets me is a lot of the people who support Andrew Yang and universal basic income don't realize that this corporate plan, if Sanders gets it enacted, could do as much or more than their universal basic income could do, and it isn't going to put people basically on the yoke of the government the way the Yang's UBI will. But people don't think they don't. I've argued sometimes with some of these Yang people, and I think Yang originally I was a bit more positive to him, but he's clearly a corporatist. He clearly has no sense of wanting to change capitalism or and cage it or whatnot. He's one of these technocrats that is divorced from reality.
Sanders is the only one who really gets that the larger issue isn't just one issue. It's really getting at these corporate bastards.
Yeah.
It's really changing the way the system works, and I do think that if the Democrats screw him again, that he should pull a Teddy Roosevelt and make sure that they lose the election by running as an independent.
Well, the Green Party here in America, the candidate there, Howie Hawken, supports basically most of the stuff Sanders does and a few other things. So if Sanders gets screwed by the DNC, I'm voting Green. I'm just like I did in 2016 for Jill Stein. Howie Hawkins is an even better candidate than
You've
Stein.
had some amusing comments about Andrew Yang and Pete Buttigieg. Like I said, I sometimes glance at your Twitter. I also like how you compared Elizabeth Warren to a sitcom maid.
Yeah,
Uh, because
she she
yeah,
has nothing. She it's all Sanders light stuff. I do like Tulsi Gabbard, although she sometimes sticks her foot in her mouth. Her thing of vote. There was a dust up of her voting present rather than yes or no on the Trump impeachment. And I understand she wanted to say she wasn't supporting the impeachment and she doesn't support Trump, but clearly he easily met the standards for impeachment. And the fact that not a single Republican voted to impeach him shows what 45 years have wrought. Uh, uh, there were Republicans who voted to impeach Nixon. Not a one has voted to impeach Clinton. Not Clinton. Well, they all voted to impeach Clinton over. I mean, he abused his power, no doubt about it, but it was over a blowjob. There's a big difference between that and conspiring with a foreign country to investigate your political opponent and his son Biden. I mean, Trump is so corrupt. He's so. I mean, Trump is like these guys in The Irishman because his father made deals with the New York City mafia 50, 60 years ago. But anyway,
I feel too that this current political climate, not just in America, but perhaps even worldwide, certainly in my country, there's really no people of the Sandbergian kind. There's no man of the people. Like there's no Tommy Douglases, and Ralph Nader is near death, and there's so many issues with that. I mean, Obama would be a good example of someone who presented himself as a man of the people, and yet I was reading an article recently about how Obama actually has more in kind with George W. Bush, how they're good
yeah,
friends, and how his policies were largely a continuance
yeah.
of George Bush. You also said that something to the effect of if Reagan was the great communicator, which he wasn't, but if he was, then Obama is the great betrayer.
Yeah,
And
he was just
maybe
all bullshit.
going after Sanders too just shows his corporate connections.
Yeah, and he's now worth something like $40 million. I mean, where is, I mean, and people bring up Jimmy Carter, and I'm not a big Jimmy Carter fan, but at least he was trying. Harry Truman, when he left the presidency, he got a presidential pension, but he went back to becoming a private citizen. And he and another thing that gets me is all these presidential libraries. What's this president? We don't need to know every fucking detail about Nixon, and not that they even release all the real details. I mean, it's such bullshit. Oh God, I just can't. I mean, if I could have my way, I would restart this country, the U.S. Have a new constitution drafted up. I would. Well, if I were a benevolent dictator, I'd do a lot of things differently. But